all else has fallen today. So I think of love sort of like the Rockies may tumble, exactly, but ultimately God's love is here to stay. Think about it like the rising of the phoenix, the mythological bird that lived for 1,000 years and then built its nest, and the sun set it on fire and it all burned up, and from the ashes came the phoenix once more. And that's how love is. From the ashes always love arises, because love is here to stay. So when I went to the multi-faith service, I was reminded that while various religious practices have their differences, there is that one underlying essence of it all, and that is love, and what we call the law of reciprocity, or what Christians call the golden rule. And every major faith has the golden rule that is underneath it all. It says it differently. I want to share some of these. The Baha'i faith says, "And if thine eyes be turned toward justice, choose thou for thy neighbor that which thou choosest for thyself." The golden rule. Brahmanism says, "This is the sum of dharma, or duty. Do not unto others which would cause you pain if you had it done to you." Buddhism says, "Hurt not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful." And the Gospel of Thomas says, "And don't do what you hate," etc., etc., etc. And there are others. But here's the one that I really love. Yoruba of Nigeria, their spiritual practice says this: "One going to take a pointed stone to pinch a baby bird should first try it on himself to see how it hurts." Very sensible, I think. So the Dalai Lama says this about love. He says, "Love is wanting others to be happy." And Eric Fromm said that love is the active concern for the growth and well-being of the beloved. The growth and the well-being of the beloved. Now we talk about the golden rule: do unto others as you would have others do unto you. But there's a little problem with that. And that is, what I want done unto me is not necessarily what you want done unto you. So the truth of love is to show up in a way that works for the beloved, the one. So there's this wonderful book that I discovered, and apparently it's been on the bestsellers list. I may be a little bit behind, and it is The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. Are you familiar with that book? So that really is the essence of it all. The 5 love languages, and he talks about intimate love. But to me, as we discovered yesterday at the Pride Day, love is love. So no matter who or what or how you're in relationship with someone, the 5 languages can be beneficial to all of us, because we all have a different, not necessarily a different, but there's 5 concepts of how love is expressed. And how I express love is not necessarily, as I said, the way you feel that love speaks to you. So here's Chapman's 5 languages of love. There's words of affirmation, spending quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. So let's take a look at those 5. So words of affirmation. In a lot of relationships, and I'm going to speak of marital relationships or intimate relationships specifically right now, one partner will go out and work and work and work and work. And then when the mate says, "You don't love me, you never spend any time with me," the truth of the matter is, the working partner is thinking they're demonstrating their love by working and bringing home the bacon, so to speak. And yet, the other partner has a different perception of how love should show up. If you really loved me, you would spend time with me. And so there's a conflict, you see, of the way love is perceived to be demonstrated and the way love is perceived to be received. And then that can cause a lot of trouble in all kinds of relationships. Not just intimate relationships, but friendships, work relationships, community relationships. The difference of the perception of the way love is demonstrated. So, words of affirmation. And my idea, my concept is this, to propose to you that if you use these 5 languages of love alternately, you're gonna hit the right note with everyone you encounter. So here they are, words of affirmation. I think we have this issue so often with children. The don't do's. Don't do this, don't do that, stop doing this, stop doing that. And if we were able to catch a child, or catch our partner, or catch our friend, catch the beloved, doing acts that are pleasing, that we would like to see repeated, noticing that and making statements of affirmations, words of affirmations. Saying, I really like the way, and I'm going to use our children here as an example, who often run through the service, and that doesn't bother me, but I know it bothers some other people. So catching those kids and saying to them, I love the way you're walking through the sanctuary, and calling them back to that. I love the way that you're sitting and eating on the platform. Words of affirmation are words of love, and they have a tendency to be repeated. So that's one of the 5 languages of love, words of affirmation. Some of you may have had partners who were not very helpful about taking out the garbage, or picking up socks, or whatever. And saying words of affirmation, for instance, like, I really appreciated it last week when you took the trash out. Thank you so very much. Or, I really appreciated it when you put your socks in the dirty clothes. Thank you very much. So words of affirmation are one style of language of love. The other is quality time. And we can all practice this easily, I believe. But this often shows up when one partner believes that working and bringing home the bacon is an act of love, and the other partner is saying, "Oh, you never spend any time with me." Spending quality time with someone is really imperative, meaning that when you are in conversation, when you are in the presence of someone, you give them your total attention. I don't know about you, but sometimes after service, I can be in conversation with someone, and their eyes are casting around the room. I find that not very loving. When I'm having a conversation with someone, I want them to be present with me. When I'm in relationship with someone, I want them to spend time with me, to give me their attention. I don't think I'm the only one. But for some people, that is really imperative. That is an act of love, to spend time with the beloved, to give the beloved total attention. The third type of language of love is receiving gifts. Some people believe that receiving gifts is a statement of love, or giving gifts is a statement of love. I have to tell you that my husband was horrible at this. Horrible. One time he gave me a drill. Another time he went to the drugstore and bought a broken pair of earrings. He was horrible.
Poor dude.
However, he was great at affirmations. Nothing I did was not okay with him. He was the guy that always said, "Great, you go for it. You tell them." He was just wonderful at that. Gifts he could have done a little bit better at. Yeah. Well, and then, after he died, I went looking for my drill because I wanted to hang some things on the wall. And I went to visit my nephew and niece. And my nephew said, "Oh yeah, that James Edward, he was really a great guy. The last thing he gave me before he died
Was it drill?
was his drill." The Lord of the house giveth, and the Lord of the house taketh away. But that was only one of his love languages. So, you know. Receiving gifts can be very important to people. And I don't know about you, but it seems to me in our culture that that aspect of love has gotten a little bit out of hand. In that, parents very often do not spend time with their children, don't give them affirmations, and give them gifts and gifts and gifts, thinking that they're demonstrating love, when often children do not perceive that as a gift of love. And the fourth way of showing love, the fourth language of love, is acts of service. And I think we see that demonstrated here in this congregation. There are so many people that are in service in this congregation, in this community, showing their love. And I can name each one of you. Each one of you as showing your love to this community by your acts of service. In intimate relationships, acts of service include taking out the garbage, putting the seat down on the toilet, putting the socks in the dirty clothes, mowing the lawn, washing the car. Acts of service. With the hands and the action saying, I love you. And the fifth language of love is physical affection, touching. Not necessarily sensual or lustful, but just a pat on the shoulder, a touch of the hand, a gentle smile with a touch. Those are acts of love. They're acts of affection. Holding hands as you walk down the street. So for many of us, that's a demonstration of love. So as we move through our days, knowing that these are the 5 languages of love, making a point in whatever way is sincere and genuine to try those on those that we encounter. Speaking words of encouragement, giving gifts, giving quality time, making contact with someone when you actually are in their presence. Acts of affection, physical acts of affection. These are all ways of saying, I love you. These are all ways of connecting with people from that open-hearted space, allowing love to stand. So, at this moment, I can genuinely say to you, through words of affection and affirmation, I love you deeply. Stay. I would invite the practitioners to join with me. Reverend Aaron is in Carson City today, speaking. So she hasn't deserted us, just to let everybody know that. So I invite you to join with me as we go inside. And we allow ourselves to settle into that place where the love of God resides within us. That place where we are deeply connected with the divine. And knowing that the law of reciprocity, the golden rule, is God's rule. Knowing that it is done unto me as I do unto others. Knowing that as that love freely and easily and effortlessly flows into my life. Knowing that wherever there is a perception of lack of love, the healing is to allow it to flow forth. Knowing that love doesn't rain down upon me, it flows from me. And truly, truly knowing and understanding that love heals all things. When I speak the 5 languages of love, I absolutely know and understand that I am being healed. I am being loved. I am being blessed by the divine in ways I cannot imagine. So from this place of deep knowing, this prayerful place of connection with all that is, I allow my heart to be open, my attention to be open, my arms to be open. I allow love to flow easily and effortlessly through me, healing all that needs to be healed, loving everyone who needs to be loved in ways that they can acknowledge and recognize as the truth. And so with gratitude, I claim that for myself, and I claim it on behalf of you. Knowing that love always stands. So I invite you to join with me as we know that for ourselves, as we anchor that. It's the truth for each one of us by declaring it done and by saying, and so it is.